Hey, financial coaches. Hello, Coach Kelsa here, and I am excited for this video. In today's training, I am going to dive into your discovery session, which is oftentimes your first coaching session with your clients, and we're going to talk about some common mistakes I see coaches make, and typically the result of these mistakes is that you are not converting clients into long-term coaching. And so we're going to make sure that in this video we help you improve your conversions. I have my housekeeper is here today and she is vacuuming, so you might hear a vacuum in the background. I also have my dog right there. So we'll see how she does. She might bark at some point, but that's okay. I've got some information to share with you. It's important. And so background noise and all, I'm going to deliver it to you. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Kelsa, and I am the creator of this amazing group, Financial Coaches Unite. And I say it's amazing because of all of you, all of the collaboration, the conversations, the amazing vulnerability and questions that you pose, and sharing your challenges, sharing your takeaways and things you've learned with others. It is incredible, and I absolutely love it. I appreciate all of you so much for making this group what it is. If you are new here, just to draw your attention to a couple of the resources that are available. First and foremost is the guides section. So guide 1 is where some of the best practices for the group are. Etiquette guide, that kind of thing is in guide 1. And then starting in guide 2 are some of the most popular saved posts. So video, training videos, long form posts, that kind of thing. And so you can start in guide 2 and just have plenty to binge for a very long time, which is incredible. Also, make sure you check out the events section of the group. We do a monthly meetup every single month. I host that, and I answer any questions you have about being a financial coach, coaching your clients, the business side of things, work-life balance, pretty much anything goes. We also host some other different types of events, so you can check those out in the events section as well. And make sure you join as many of those as you can. I want to share one last announcement really quickly, and it is regarding the Financial Coaching Toolkit. We've done a ton of videos about the difference between the Academy and the Toolkit. You can find one of those videos in Guide 2 if you're looking for something like that. You can also hop on a call with me to chat about the difference, but it's going to be important that you dive into that because this weekend we are hosting one of our one special promos that we do of 2 per year. So we only do it twice per year, and one of them is this weekend. It's usually around Memorial Day weekend when we do it. And we are making a ton of changes to the toolkit, you guys. And there is a video that Jill did yesterday in the group. So Coach Jill, she is our director of programming, director of coaching on our team, and she shared a lot of these changes that are coming. I've been sort of alluding to them for a couple of months now. I've been sharing it with some of you privately, but Jill really dove into the details on the video that she did yesterday, and I saved it as a featured video. So right at the top of the feed, you should see the featured section, and I went ahead and saved it right there. So please check that out if you are excited about what might be in store for the toolkit. She dives into detail on what we have planned for that. And one of the things that we pride ourselves on is with our offerings, the Financial Coach Academy and the Financial Coaching Toolkit, you get lifetime access, and you don't just get access to like the version you're buying today. You get access to all of the upgrades that are coming. And one of the things that Jill shared in the video is that once we are done with this revamp of the toolkit, just to give you an idea, it is going to be valued at $28,000 because it is getting a massive overhaul. The way it's going to be delivered is going to be very, very different. So instead of $29.97, which is what it is now, and it's going to be on sale this weekend for $500 off, so $24.97 you can get it for. And once we're done with the upgrade to it that we're planning, it's going to be a $28,000 program, okay? Because we're taking each of the 14 themes that were created coaching concepts around, and we are almost doubling each one and going to offer them separately, okay? And so at the end of the day, it's going to be a much more expensive offer. And the best part about it This is not a lie. This is not a joke. I know so many people like literally hop on a call with me just to say like, I think you said this, but I thought I must have heard you wrong. You are not hearing me wrong when I say this. That if you bought the toolkit a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, or if you buy it this weekend for $24.97, when the upgrades happen, as we roll them out, you get those upgrades. Like they are yours as well. You are not just buying the current version of those programs, both the Academy and the toolkit. You get all the future programming that we add to it as well, which is like just so awesome. We love doing it that way. We appreciate you for taking a leap of faith with us, for trusting us to be a part of your financial coaching journey. And this is simply one way that we tell you thank you. This is one way that we show you thank you, that we appreciate you, is by allowing to pour into you for years and years to come as we upgrade our programs and upgrade our business and grow our own skills as financial coaches. So if you have any questions about that, please let me know. So we are going to dive in now to the meat and potatoes of this presentation. Let me grab my notes here really quickly. One thing to know really quickly is that if you are not sure what I'm talking about when I talk about a discovery session, the idea here is that you really want to qualify clients before you invite them to work with you for, let's say, 6 months at a time, right? And you can do that in a couple of different ways. You can qualify them by offering, let's say, a 45-minute or 1 hour consultation, which is typically a free consultation when people say that, and then invite them at the end of that to work with you for 6 months. 4 months, 6 months, 12 months, doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter if it's 45 minutes or an hour. The point is that it's a free sort of coaching session, consult, with the idea that you're inviting them to work with you into the next step after that, whatever that next step looks like for you. Conversely, sort of alternatively, if you will, the other option is what we use, which is this paid discovery session. So someone's very first session with you is a paid session, and it's going to be a coaching session. And that is one step of qualifying people. It's a baby step that they have to take, both from a financial commitment, an effort commitment, that kind of thing, before they dive into sort of more of the robust long-term coaching program and a higher investment, right? And not just financial investment, but time, effort, engagement, how they have to show up, that kind of thing. So it's a big difference. And we believe in sort of like this discovery session model. In Guide 2, there is a video that's like the 9 key phases of your first coaching session with somebody. And we go in detail in that training video on how to structure this session, okay? In the Financial Coach Academy, not only do we go into detail, but we provide you with all of the prep work, all of the resources that go along with it, and a recording of an actual discovery session so that you can kind of see it not just from theory or concept, but through application. What I want to talk about today, though, is not just the basics of that session. We've already done a video on that. That is in Guide 2. That's the one I'm just talking about. So if you're looking for like the basics of that, go dive into that video and then come watch this video, okay? This video assumes that you've done some discovery sessions, that you are hosting them, that you're getting more comfortable with them and that kind of thing. But maybe what's happening is you're not converting enough people, or as many people as you would like, to ongoing coaching, right? So in this session, something is happening where we're not able to get that commitment from people so that they want to move forward with us. And, you know, I think the goal of financial coaching as coaches, but also for the individual, is to create a transformation around money, okay? And it's to create a business where we are forming long-term relationships with our clients. When it's long-term, that's really when coaching gets to be a lot of fun. I think you can really dive in. You both know each other a bit better. You have learned to trust each other even more. And so the conversations are just so amazing. And you're actually seeing the proof of what you say that you can do for people, right? So you're actually seeing them reach their goals, right? In the discovery session, it's a one-time session typically. And so what happens is like you're helping them to create a plan, helping them to gain awareness, which is all very, very important. But you're not getting that long-term sort of validation of like, I'm really good at this and what I'm doing is working for people, right? We want that. Not only because we want the validation, but it's what's best for the client. Like that's what the client ultimately is hiring you for, right? Is that transformation. It's the results. And so being able to see the results are really important as a coach. It just helps you feel more confident in sort of describing the value of what you do and all of that, right? So what happens for a lot of people though is they're doing these discovery sessions and they're noticing that they're not converting into long-term coaching. So they invite someone to work with them, but they're hearing a number of objections, okay? That is what we're going to address in today's video, is why is that happening, the most common mistakes. Now, this video was sort of inspired because there was a conversation that happened in this group, which is amazing. And somebody had said, which is a very common sort of thought process of like, I want to switch from doing a paid discovery session to a free consult because I think it's going to be easier. I think I'm going to convert more people and that kind of thing. And this is not about right or wrong. It's not like a black and white issue, okay? So if you want to do that, that's totally okay. There are a ton of coaches who have a very successful business with that business model, and that is totally okay. What I want to do in this video is give you some things to try first before you overhaul your entire business and client journey, right? I would rather have you tweak a few things because chances are we can actually have you get paid for your discovery session instead of doing it for free and convert clients at the exact same time, which is the win-win scenario that we're after, right? And I want you to try this first before you decide to go the other route. What I want you to know between both strategies, whether you're doing a discovery session paid and then into coaching program, or you're doing a free consult into a coaching program, what I want you to pay attention to is that this is a very nuanced thing. So it's not that they're vastly different. What they both are attempting to do is qualify the client before they sign up for a coaching program, right? And it just depends on, how long that first session is and whether or not you charge for it. Those are the two differences. And in my opinion, there's value being delivered in that session. And so I think we should place that value on our services right away. I think we should set that standard of like, what I do is valuable. And so I want to command a price for that, right? And I want people to know it's valuable. Okay. So it's not right or wrong. They're both the same sort of, they're both trying to achieve the exact same thing. Okay. Now let's dive into the three most common mistakes that you are probably making if you are not converting from your discovery session into long-term coaching. Oh, before we do that, a couple of things that I want you to ponder. Okay. The first is, if you are that person who is saying, I want to switch from a paid discovery session to a free consult, maybe your discovery session is 90 minutes and you see going to a free consult that's an hour, okay? Let's just say, I think that's very, very common. Maybe it's 2 hours to an hour, that kind of thing. In your mind, if you are considering that, it's likely that you are imagining the initial consult with that client going a certain way, okay? And it might look like a few things in your mind. This is what I'm guessing, okay? It's this idea of like, we're gonna have more of a conversation. We're gonna talk more about what they want to achieve and why coaching is important to them or why managing their money better is important to them. You probably imagine getting, less into strategy and the how of their money and really having more of an in-depth conversation, like a get to know you session, right? You're probably seeing yourself, if you're not charging for it, maybe delivering a little bit less, right, than what you're delivering right now in your paid discovery session, right? I'm assuming all of those things are sort of what you're imagining in your head as far as like how that will shift when you go from doing it from paid to free. And what I want you to do, what I want to challenge you with is this idea that you can make all of those changes right now to the way you're doing your discovery session and still charge for it. You should make all of those changes you're considering making, which is like less of the how, less strategy, more of a conversation, more of a, building trust and rapport and that kind of thing. All of those things, probably talking about less is more in the discovery session for sure. What if you made all of those changes you're imagining that you're going to make, but still charge for the session? Okay, so that's thought number one, okay, that it could actually be both, not one or the other. And then the second thing that I want you to think about is I want you to reflect back on your own transformation. Maybe it's a financial one, but maybe not. I know some coaches are like, well, I was never like bad with money and then I became good at it. And so that it feels like a harder sell for you is to like say like, I've been where you're at. I used to struggle, that kind of thing, if you didn't. For those of you who did at one point struggle financially and now you experienced your own changes, you put new behaviors in place, like that kind of thing, I want you to think about that for just a second. And for those of you who maybe didn't go from like bad with money to good, just think about some area of your life where you experienced a transformation. Maybe it's your health and fitness. Maybe it's your relationships in your life. Maybe it's the way you take care of yourself. Maybe it's a career change, like a big pivot in your life, right? Maybe it's the way you parent or something like that. It can be any number of things, okay? The takeaways will be the same. We're just changing the currency, okay? So I want you to think about that. And I want you to think about that transformation and what started that transformation. What was the beginning phase of that transformation? And then what happened next? And then what was the next phase of that transformation and that sort of thing? I was just talking about this with a client the other day who recently had made a comment about like you can't create a transformation in one session, right? And the funny thing is that this client literally in like the week before this session when she had made that comment had just started working out at a gym for the very first time. And we were talking about that because I enjoy fitness and that kind of thing. And so does she. And so, we were just kind of talking about what that was like. And she had said, walking into the gym for the first time, I knew immediately I was going to sign up for a membership. She had been working out at our house for a long time due to COVID and that kind of thing. And so she was like, I knew instantly that I felt different. I knew that like the energy of like what was happening around me and like just feeling more like I could get in shape faster. And like, I just felt like her whole energy, she felt like had shifted when she went to the gym, and she ended up getting a membership. She had then worked out for like a week and was feeling like a completely different person in 1 week. She was feeling more motivated. She was challenging herself in the gym. She was lifting heavier in 1 week already, like those types of things, right? She was having more fun, right? She was feeling empowered and excited and all of that, all because she stepped foot in the gym, right? So it's this idea of like, what I want you to really pay attention to is if your goal is to help clients create a transformation financially, I want you to think about how your discovery session is the catalyst of that transformation. How that discovery session maybe by itself is not the full transformation. Of course it's not, right? But we should not discount it as transformational, because when the person leaves that session, here's what I know to be true. When they leave that session, that client feels as if, or even when they book the session, honestly, and they have invested in themselves around their money, they immediately start to feel as if they are part of the solution and no longer stagnant, right? So just by booking the session, that shift internally has just happened for your clients, right? What I want you to do is pay attention to, like, this is the step that we have to do first in order to trigger the total transformation that we're going for later, right? Like, this is the first step. And one of the very first things that I need you to do is believe that to be true, right? And one way that we can do that is think about any transformation we've had and how that very first step was likely incredibly impactful, not in like this minute way of like the changes we got in that moment, but in what it set us up to do and the belief it gave us of like what we're capable of and that kind of thing going forward on our journey, right? So let me take a drink really quickly. Well, I got to get talking too. Mr. Fiscal Fitness has a meeting in 37 minutes. So since we share an office now, we have to tag team things. Okay, so I want you to reflect on your own transformation and ask yourself how pivotal that very first session was, or that very first step that you took, and pay attention to how if you had not taken that step, the rest likely would not have happened as well, or would have happened much later or much slower and that kind of thing, right? So here are the 3 common mistakes that coaches are likely making, and I know I made them myself. This is why I know about them. The coaches that we hire when we first hire somebody and they start doing Eureka sessions, this is absolutely something that we pay attention to because it's like a rite of passage that you're probably doing this. So as I'm going through these, if you're thinking, oh, well, hell, yeah, I did that one. Oh, shit, I'm doing that one too. It's okay. I promise we've all done it, and it's just like a very normal thing, okay? So number 1 mistake, you are over-delivering. Once you put a price tag on a session, your mind shifts to, I need to deliver value, right? I need to earn this. I need to prove myself, right? This is not necessarily a bad thing, but it is if it's left unchecked. It creates a situation where you become solely focused on solving a specific problem and not necessarily painting a picture of the entire situation that they have and how this one problem is playing a role in all of it, right? It's almost like we get too like tunnel vision, too focused, right? And it's this idea of like, we sort of like, what's that saying? Like, miss the forest through the trees or something like that. Like, I think that's kind of what happens, okay? And you think you have to prove yourself. So we're way over delivering, okay? Mistake number 2 is we are probably overwhelming the client for sure. This happens when you focus too much on the how of the solution, or the how is like all the steps or action steps that they need to take. So the reason that this affects your conversions and why clients don't end up moving forward if you're doing this is because they now have a project they need to complete first. And what they feel like is, well, I need to do this first. Let me figure this part out. Let me work on this first, and then we can move forward into the next step. But then they don't ever get to that stage, right? Or they delay the solution doesn't feel as pressing, it's not as urgent to them anymore, and that kind of thing. And so you're not converting. And I would say overwhelming clients is probably the biggest killer of conversions in your discovery session. Another way that this shows up is like, and I see coaches, we do this because I'm just like you. I like to have 3 different contingency plans for things. I do. I like it. I like knowing plan A and also B, C, and D. I really do. I like knowing like, well, what if this happens? I'm going to do this, right? But your discovery session is not really the time and place for that. So you can overwhelm the client by saying like, well, do this, but if this were to happen, make sure you do it this way. And if this, then this. It's almost like you're creating way too many contingencies, and it's overwhelming. It's actually stressful for the client. And so it's harder when they are feeling overwhelmed and stressed to make a commitment to long-term coaching on any future changes. If they're like, well, if this one step feels overwhelming, then every step from here is going to feel 10 times more overwhelming, right? Okay. The 3rd mistake is not teeing up or expressing how you can continue to help them either with the same problem or other aspects of their financial position during future coaching. Okay, so you're simply not articulating the value of what you can do for them moving forward during this session. And this is really tied to the first one of over delivering, where you're getting so focused on one problem that we're not really painting that clear picture of like, this one problem is actually related to like 5 other things, and we'll have to solve those too, and we can do that with future coaching, right? Like, it's almost like we're not painting the whole picture. We're like too tunnel vision, okay? So let me see here, see if there's anything else in that section of my notes really quickly. Yes, Julianne, 14 themes. Yes. And they'll each be separated. So they're all about to go probably double in size, some of them even more. Jill, again, in her video, like dives into great detail on like exactly what we're thinking and how it's all going to be structured and everything like that. So let's see. Okay. So these are all changes that we want to make, some mistakes we want to fix, that we can change and still charge for your session, okay? So before we move forward to how to fix them, I want to do some math with you really quickly. I want to give you an idea of why I think this is so important. Let's say that your goal is to make 1 to 2 or to get 1 to 2 new clients per month in your long-term coaching program. Again, that's where the transformation, like really we get to like witness it, right? That's really when we want to, be working with clients. So let's say your goal is 1 to 2 new clients per month. Scenario 1, we're going to make some assumptions. Okay, I'm actually going to type these in the comments. Can I do that? Yes, I can. Here we go. I can do that. Let's do that. Scenario 1, assumptions, is you have a $200 discovery session. Let's say that's what you charge for your discovery session. It's 90 minutes and $500 per month coaching program for 6 months, let's say. Let's also assume you have a 50% conversion from discovery session to the coaching program. So for every 2 discovery sessions you do, you convert 1 of them to long-term coaching. And a 75% conversion from Q&A call to discovery session. I know one of the hurdles a lot of coaches face when it comes to this is like you feel like you have to sell twice, okay? And I want to address that a little bit, because if you're doing this right, it shouldn't feel like selling. It should feel like you're simply inviting them to make the changes that they're telling you they want to make. And what you're doing is you're allowing them to commit like with 1 step at a time. So you're actually just inviting them to commit twice so that they can experience what coaching is like. I think this is incredibly valuable for financial coaching in general, because a lot of people have no idea what financial coaches do, what it's about. And a lot of the times, if your client, especially if your ideal client is not familiar with coaching, they don't hire life coaches, they don't typically hire business coaches, dating coaches, whatever the parenting coaches, like if it's not a normal part of their growth and development awareness, then allowing them to experience coaching is really important for them, but you should be getting paid for that because you are providing coaching, right? So let's make those assumptions. So in order to get 2 new clients, you would have to do 4 discovery sessions, right? 4 discovery sessions. And in order to book 4 discovery sessions, some people will just book right on your website, but let's pretend like that's not happening. Let's pretend like you have a call with, a quick 15, 20 minute call with everybody. Then you would have to do 6 Q&A calls, okay? If we were to do the math on that, your total income per month would be $1,800. Your total hours worked per month is 10 hours. That's including the Q&A calls, that's including the discovery sessions and that kind of thing. Then you would be working 10 hours, $1,800. Your average hourly rate is $180, okay, per hour. Now, let's do scenario 2 assumptions, okay? So that's if you're doing a discovery session model. Scenario 2, and I'm putting these in the chat so there's no confusion later. So you're not charging for a discovery session. It's a free consult, and maybe you're doing it for 60 minutes instead of the 90 minutes. You still have your $500 a month coaching program. You have a 35%. One quick thing really quickly, if you are doing free consults, and so you're not getting sort of like prep work, or you're not getting like information from the client that you need for the coaching program, because that's a big part for us, is like it is a step in our onboarding. Like it really is, like we're getting what we need from the client in that stage anyway. So even if a client were to come to us and say, I want 6 months of coaching, there's no doubt about it, we would say, okay, great. We still need you to book the discovery session and then we'll just move. We just know, like, that's great. We want to work too. That's wonderful. We're here. We're excited about that. And it's still a step in the process because that's when we gather all the information. If you are not doing that step and you're doing a free consult, or if you're going to make this change into free consult, you probably need to raise the price of your coaching program, because you're going to have to add a session, or you're going to have to do something on the front end during your onboarding to gather the information that you would normally be getting during your paid discovery session. Okay. So let's see. Scenario 2 assumptions. You're doing a free consult for an hour, $500 a month coaching program. Let's say you have a 35% conversion from discovery or free consult into coaching program. So 1/3. And then you're doing, let's say a 100% conversion from Q&A call if you're even doing them. It's a lot easier to convert if you are saying, it's a free session that I'm offering you, right? Like, it's a free consult. Like, people are going to be more likely to book that. So you could probably have a higher conversion. Okay. Those are the assumptions. So same scenario. If you wanted 2 new clients a month, you would have to do 6 discovery sessions, but they're shorter, right? And 6 Q&A calls, let's say, or 6 conversations with people. Even if you're not doing a Q&A call, you're likely having conversations in DMs and that kind of thing. So just think about it that way. In this scenario, your total income is $1,000 per month. The total hours worked per month actually stays the same. You're working 10 hours for the same result of 2 new clients. So in both scenarios, scenario 1 and scenario 2, you are working the same amount of hours, but you're making less money in scenario 2. Your average hourly rate is $100 per hour, where in scenario 1, when you're doing the discovery sessions, it's $180 per hour. So a much higher just on average, right? So just something to think about on another reason why I think this is so important. One of the things I've also noticed, and I think that, sometimes this isn't really discussed with free consults, is how many people aren't showing up engaged, and you can fix that too. There's qualification steps you can do ahead of time, absolutely, to make sure that happens less and less, no doubt. But also, how many times does a person go into a coaching program and after a month, we just find that it's not a good fit, right? Or they're like, oh, this isn't really what I was expecting, or something like that. Or I would say, after how long does the coach end up doing discovery sessions eventually? Because the better you get, the more your marketing is dialed in, your messaging is dialed in. The idea of doing 6 consults in 1 month might sound amazing right now, and you're like, oh, I would love to have 6 free consults a month, right? But at some point, you will have so many of them that you will end up charging for that session at some point. I think it's a very normal sort of progression that happens even when somebody is offering a free consult, or you create scale and leverage in some other way. You can do that by having an on-ramp course that the client has to take first before they can go into private coaching with you. You can raise your prices even more. You can also narrow down your niche more significantly, which is a natural transition that also happens for coaches. And so that way, it's maybe you can find ways of doing less. Or, like I said, a lot of coaches will eventually end up charging for their free consult at some point anyway. So some benefits of charging for those who don't want to continue: they are walking, talking ambassadors for the session, and they're going to be telling people about it because it was probably a time when they gained some takeaways, and they feel differently about it because they paid for it. They invested in themselves, so they show up differently, and so they're going to feel more excited talking about it, right? You are valuing what you do, which of course I think is super important. You are qualifying them in one more way. You're ensuring that they are not just interested, or they say they're committed, but they are invested in their journey right away. And all of those are, again, benefits of charging for this initial session. So let's dive now into how to tweak your session so that you are overcoming those 3 mistakes we discussed and ultimately getting more long-term clients. Number 1, stop over delivering. Easier said than done, right? So what I want you to do when you are preparing for your discovery sessions going forward is I want you to ask yourself, what 3 things do you want to discuss about their main problem? 3 things. That is it. Not 4, not 5, 3. Okay? Chances are you are way over delivering in all the number of things you're talking about. So one of the things you might hear me say on some of the videos and the guides is I want you to think more about depth of conversation versus a wide variety of topics in a conversation, right? So really think about the depth of that problem versus like, let's cover all these different angles and like that kind of thing, okay? So one way to, I think is an easy way, if you like a framework or if you like just one way of sort of like check for yourself in a mental way, is think about this as like past, present, future. Past is you could have a conversation with a client about, what factors contributed to this problem occurring, what you see other clients sharing as far as like what created the situation, how many times you've seen it and helped people with it, how long they've been experiencing this problem, how it's shifted over time, right? So was it always this way, or, has it changed recently, or, those types of things. So in other words, you're talking about the history of this problem that they're facing. That's the past stage. The present is how it's currently affecting them. You could have a very in-depth conversation of how it is showing up for them right now, how they feel when it happens, what goes through their mind when this incident happens again and again and again, right? How it's connected to other things right now that they're likely experiencing. Maybe how it's affecting their relationship with a significant other, someone that they share money with, how it's affecting their outlook on their career, or if they're feeling like they're tied to a paycheck because they don't have any choice, even though they hate their job, and like that kind of thing, right? How it's affecting their health, how it's affecting the way they sleep and the way they treat people, and like that kind of thing. I would rather have you do that than talk about like, what are all the other struggles with money that you're facing, right? When conversations come up around what other struggles they're facing financially, if you find yourself getting distracted by those in the discovery session, so you're allowing the conversation to go down those rabbit holes or go on those tangents, this is also a change that I want you to make. I want you to use that as an opportunity to tee up the benefit of more coaching. Instead of going down the rabbit hole right then and there, say that is, a wonderful observation. I'm so glad you brought that up. That is something we'll want to address. And I'm happy, we won't have time to do that today, but we can definitely talk about that, in your first month of coaching. We'll want to make sure that we, tackle that or overcome that or put some behaviors in place or systems in place for making sure you feel more in control of that or something like that. It's an opportunity to not answer the direct question you've been given, but to paint a picture of like how you can help them going forward. Okay. And then future phase, so past, present, future, when it comes to over delivering, is the ripple effect of this problem, the other things it contributes to, and how those things are affecting them. How once we solve this problem, here are some of the other things that could pop up for you. This is where I want you to imagine that transformation. Here's this first step that we're doing, and this is right where you need to be, and we're going to solve this because this step is important, not by itself, it's important, but because of the impact it will have on your trajectory going forward, right? And this trajectory is what's important. The trajectory in that transformation is what we want to keep highlighting during the discovery session, and the role that this one thing plays in all of it, not just by itself, okay? Let's see. Let's see what you see people do. Oh, so this is also a really good time to talk about what you see people do or not do after the discovery session. So this is also a good time where you can talk about some of the nuance of change. So yes, this step, we can solve this. This might be easy. It'll seem simple, but sort of holding on to that new behavior or this new habit we want you to form, it will actually get hard sometimes, right? Like there will come times where, you feel tempted to not stick to this plan or like those types of things. This is a really good way to, lean on your expertise of, either what you've experienced yourself, some of those hurdles along the way where it wasn't always easy, right? Like the progress is kind of messy. It's not just perfectly linear. What are some of those things that you know they will experience? And simply draw attention to them as a way of saying, and I've seen them so many times, I'm aware of them, I will help coach you through those as well, right? Okay, number 2, stop focusing on the how before the vision of what you are helping them to create. So this overwhelms the person. This gives them the project to complete, and they feel like they need to do that before they can even think about the next step, which is why they can't think about coaching, right? They got to go do some work first. They got to complete their homework that you just gave them. Focus on coaching the whole person and not just their finances. This is one thing I want you to think about is like with this financial problem, like make sure you're painting that clear vision of like what solving this will do for their whole life, right? And how it'll set them up for more in the future and like that kind of thing. Why is it so important for them to solve this? Like, what is that ripple effect? Have them share that with you. Why is it so important that they do this, right? This helps to create buy-in. Like they want that. You're going to help them clarify that vision of like, yes, I'm solving this problem and solving this problem is important, but it's important to me because of this thing over here that I want, right? If I didn't want this thing over here, if this thing over here was not important to me, then solving this problem wouldn't be important to me, right? So you really want to spend time in your session talking about that as well. Making sure that you're helping them paint a picture of what life could look like and what it could feel like once they solve this problem. Focus on the vision. This makes the next step easier and more valuable because it's like, this is how this is tied to that bigger vision, but it's just one piece of that bigger vision for you. And again, what we're doing is we're letting them know that this is important. Yes, this is important. And it's important because of the role it plays in your life overall, right? Not just by itself. In this stage, when you are focusing on the vision and the how, if you're getting too much in the weeds of strategy and that kind of thing, one of the things that could likely be causing this a little bit, I know this is what it was for me personally, was being a people pleaser. And my job when I was painting this clear picture is I wanted it to be rosy and perfect and, you know, pretty and like, oh, you've got this one thing is going to like solve everything. And one, it's not realistic, right? It's not accurate. 2, we are not setting them up for success if we aren't doing a good job of preparing them for what growth will feel like and what progress often feels like. If we are painting like too rosy of a picture, then when it's hard, they will then internalize that and sometimes question like, oh, see, I knew I couldn't do this. I knew this wasn't going to be easy for me. I knew that I wasn't going to be good at this. And like these types of things will come up for them. And then they will not reach back out to you if they're struggling because they're actually just blaming themselves, right? And so the idea is to be very realistic and paint hope as far as like, this is the first step that will help you get closer to what you want to create for your life. And it's just the first step. There's a lot of other things we have to do in order to get you there, but it's worth it. Like help them to see that, but be realistic about it. Hopeful and realistic at the same time. Okay. Let's see. And then last but not least, describe their journey. And when I say like focus on the steps, I'm not referring to the steps of solving that particular problem that they came to you for. You can touch on a few of those things, absolutely. But what I'm referring to are like the steps of transformation, the steps of growth, like letting them know that there's more to change than just, you know, knowing the 2 things you need to know to do, right? That there are times when you know what you need to do and yet you will still struggle to get yourself to do them. And that's where coaching comes in, you know, helping you to see the why of why you're making these changes, why you're focusing on your behaviors and your limiting beliefs around money and that kind of thing. Really getting clear in your discovery session that this step is just one of the many steps that they need to take in order to feel amazing with their money. And you have to be crystal clear on that, because that is what helps you to, when it comes time to say, okay, let's talk about what's next. Let's talk about how I can support you in helping you achieve this vision that you helped them clarify, right? They aren't surprised of like, well, I thought this was it. I thought I was solving problems today, right? It's like, yeah, we absolutely are. And we're doing that. And this problem is just one step in your journey overall, right? Then at the end, you can summarize what you've accomplished today, while also highlighting that there's still more to be done, right? And that is where more coaching comes into play. So I want you to think about your own transformation. Back to that, the beginning of the video, the first question, think about your transformation. What are some of the hurdles that you faced? When did you reach out for help? And it doesn't have to be paid help. It can be, when did you reach out to a friend, right? Or did you have an accountability partner? Or how did somebody help you, sort of move the needle a little bit more when you were feeling stuck? What were those moments? And chances are your clients, even if you've given them everything they need to know about solving this initial problem, are going to experience similar roadblocks, similar hurdles as they make those changes going forward. And you want to be talking about those, that those are things I help you with. When the going gets tough, I am here to support you. I'm here to help you solve problems quicker. I'm here to take, the research out of things so that you have one person you can go to when you have questions, as opposed to going down the rabbit hole, right? You can talk about all of the benefits of coaching, and it's more about the growth journey that you're providing benefits to, not just the financial results that you can get them. And I think that's really where I just want to end in having you think about your discovery sessions as a whole right now. If you aren't converting the way you want to be, are you focusing maybe too heavily on the how and the steps? Are you focusing too heavily on the financial aspects and not the growth journey and like the changes that they'll need to experience overall? Chances are, if you are doing that, are you also like painting too rosy of a picture because you want them to like love you? You don't necessarily need to. They will rave about the session based on clarity that they have gained and insights they earn or they learn from the session, not necessarily whether or not they feel like all of my financial problems are solved. And I think that's sometimes a thought that we have when we're new, is like, I need to way over deliver. I need to solve so much that they will go and tell other people about it. But if you do that, then they start to feel as if they have too much work to do themselves and they don't feel necessarily supported. You want them to rave about the session because of the clarity they have gained in what they need to do to achieve their goals, and also what it takes, and that they feel ready for that journey, right? I always think that like at the end of a discovery session, if I were to ask a person, like, what is one word you feel at the end of this session? Like, what's one word that would describe how you feel? Back in the day when I was brand new coach, I think I would have said hopeful. I want them to feel hopeful, right? And I've since shifted that. I want them to feel ready. I want them to feel ready, that like whatever comes, they feel emotionally ready, mentally ready. They've got the right person there to support them. That like, yeah, I don't have it all figured out, and I can see that now. I can see that there's a lot here that I need to do, but I feel ready for that. That's how I want them to feel. So I want you to ponder that, and I would love to hear from you. Please let me know your thoughts on the session, how you're doing it now, and if you've got some takeaways, which takeaways were most important for you. And I want you to practice finessing your discovery session from here. I would rather have you think about your business at stages going forward of like, how can I finesse this? How can I up-level what I'm already doing? How can I make subtle changes to what I'm currently doing to make it even better? Versus like, this isn't working, I needed a whole different strategy. Like, I need to change my whole business model. If you're constantly pivoting business models, then the learning curve is always really steep, and I want you to reach that mastery level, right? Mastery level of what you're doing comes from continuous refinement of how you're currently doing it, not making massive overhaul changes, okay? So I hope this was helpful for you. I finished with 7 minutes to go, so Michael can do his next coaching session next. But I would love to hear from you. Let me know your thoughts and let me know what results you get in the next few months making these shifts to your discovery sessions so that you can gain more long-term financial coaching clients. That is what I want for you. Please keep me posted. Thanks for tuning in. Bye, everybody.